Hello students, I am Dr. Anita Singh. Today we will learn the first chapter of biology subject of class 11, the living world. These are learning objectives for today that we will understand the meaning of word biology and living. We will critically assess various features of the living organism and identify the unique characteristics of these life forms. We will also appreciate our biodiversity in our country. You will also understand how the binomial and trinomial nomenclature system works. You will also learn the rules of biological nomenclature. In the end of the session, you will be able to relate your subject with your daily life. Let's begin. We begin with the chapter. Let me introduce you to the term biology. Biology is a word which is actually made up of two Greek words, bios and logos. Bios means life and logos means study of. Biology is the story of life forms on the earth. All the organisms, whether existed in past, present or in future, they share same genetic material with varying degree. So somehow they are similar to each other. Do you know who is the father of biology? Aristotle is known as father of biology because development as sequential knowledge of biology took in his era, and he revealed his ideas about various aspects of life forms of plants and animals. Let's begin with the chapter. What do you understand by the word living? You will be surprised to know there are enormous biodiversity in this world, and these life forms may be present in cold mountains, mangroves, marine oceans, lakes, rivers. There is so much of biodiversity that leaves us speechless. Two things comes into the mind. What is the purpose of life? And what are these living things? The first question is very philosophical one, but we try to get the answer to the next question. What do you understand by the living? What all things comes into your mind when you think about living? Some of the things which are coming in your mind could be birds, various animals like kangaroo, snake, chameleon, fungi, plants, tiger, elephant, etc. Yes, all these things are living things, or you can say they are the living organism. But have you ever thought, why do we keep them in living? Yes, you are thinking correct, that because they all grow, they reproduce, all of them can sense their environment and can respond to their environment. They have ability to respond and they show metabolism. But are you sure that they are the unique characteristic of living organism? Let us explore all these characteristics one by one, whether they are unique characteristics or some of the characteristics may be shown by non-living things. Let's move forward. We will start with the first feature, that is growth. Growth is increase in mass or increase in number of individuals. All living things grow by cell division. You might have heard of the term population growth. That population growth of our country is very high. So growth is actually irreversible, permanent change, and the growth, if you consider them from the plant's point of view, plant shows continuous growth throughout their lifespan. You must have observed small new leaves coming from the branches. Even new branches comes out of older one. You might have observed plants blooming with flowers in a particular season or fruits on the plants. So all these things are visible in case of plants throughout their lifespan. Whereas in case of animals, that growth is visible up to certain age. Does the growth stops in them? No, that's not true. Growth in case of animal actually is a consistent process, as and when required repair and regeneration of the tissues takes place in case of various animals. If you consider unicellular organism, they also grow by cell division. For example, amoeba grow by binary fission. So now as you are aware what the growth is, let me put up a question for you. Do only living things grow? Can you think of something which is not living but still shows the growth? Yes, I'll give you one example. Some of you might have seen sand mount. If you observe that sand mount in a particular time of the day, that may be of this size, and if heavy wind is flowing, then that will increase up to this size. Similarly, mountains, boulders, all these also show growth over a period of time. But can you consider mountains, boulders, sand mounds as living organism? I am sure you will not consider them as living. Why? Because the growth shown by these is just an accumulation of the material on the surface, whereas if you consider growth from the living organism's point of view, it is an internal process. No doubt, dead organisms, they don't grow. Let's move to the next feature, reproduction. Let's talk about the reproduction in multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms reproduce both through sexual reproduction as well as many of them adopt asexual reproduction. If we say sexual reproduction in case of multicellular organisms, it refers to the production of progeny possessing feature more or less similar to the parents. And if we look at the asexual reproduction, then the organisms which are reproducing asexually, they adopt many ways for that kind of reproduction. For example, fungi reproduce through various spores. There can be asexual spores as well as sexual spores. In coming classes, you will learn about various kind of spores found in fungi for sexual reproduction. Planaria. In case of planaria, you will observe that there is regeneration process. This organism, if splits into many body parts, then every body part has the ability to regenerate itself into a complete organism. Hydra, you must have heard the word budding. That budding is a process of reproduction. It's a process of asexual reproduction in case of Hydra. Spirogyra, the blue-green alga that you observe in nearby pond. This organism reproduce through fragmentation. So, in case of multicellular organism, we can say that organism can adopt sexual mode of reproduction or asexual mode of reproduction. Different organisms which are reproducing asexually at times or in different situations, they may also resort to sexual mode of reproduction. Let's talk about reproduction in case of unicellular organism. In unicellular organism, increase in number of cell is actually synonym to the reproduction. In case of unicellular organism, reproduction and growth are synonym to each other. Fine. By looking at all these details, you might be thinking that reproduction is a specific feature or it is a unique feature of living organism. But is it so? Let me ask you a question. There are many organisms which do not reproduce. For example, mules, sterile worker bees in a beehive who never reproduce. It is the queen that has ability to reproduce in the hive. And even infertile human couples, they are never able to produce their progeny. So what is it? Are they non-living? Shouldn't they be considered as non-living? No, they are living. What does that mean? That reproduction cannot be considered as defining property of living organism, right? Let's start with another feature, metabolism. Every living body is made up of chemicals. These chemicals may vary in size, function, categories. These chemicals are continuously made inside the body or they are chained into different biochemicals. Thousands of the life processes are taking place simultaneously. All these life processes that are taking place, or all these chemical reactions that are taking place in living body, are called as metabolism or metabolic reactions. Yes, that's possible. Some of the metabolic reactions can be performed in vitro conditions. For example, you can observe the action of salivary amylase on the starch by putting it in test tube along with the starch and providing it some environmental conditions. That is possible, but all these reactions still remain parts of a cell. They cannot be separated from there. Therefore, every living body, inside every living body, various metabolic reaction takes place. Life is not possible without them. So, metabolism is defining property of living organisms. For this metabolism to take place, organism's body must be constituted of at least a single cell. There can be multicellular organism, but at least one cell is required for life to sustain. Therefore, cellular organization is another defining property of living forms. Let us explore another feature that is considered as one of the important feature of the living forms, that their ability to respond to their environment. Living organisms have ability to sense their surroundings or environment, and they respond to these environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical or biological. Let us understand what are these. Physical stimuli. Suppose if one of your friend pricks a needle into your finger, what will you do? How will you respond? You will remove your hand from there. This is the way your body has responded towards the physical stimuli. Let's take an example of chemical stimuli. When you are suffering from fever, your doctor advises you some medicine. You take that medicine, what happens? Your fever goes down. This is the response of the body, that chemical given in the form of medicine. Let's talk about the biological stimuli. Imagine you are walking in a forest, suddenly a tiger comes in front of you. What will happen? You will immediately come into fight and flight mode. This is the response towards biological stimuli. Therefore, now you will be able to understand the organisms gives different response towards the different stimuli. The response may vary from one organism to another. Let's talk about how plant responds to various stimuli. Plant responds to external stimuli like light, water, temperature, other organisms, and even to pollutants. Let us discuss them. In lower classes, you might have come across the term phototropism. Able to recall? That phototropism is the response of the plant when the stem bends towards the light. Geotropism, you remember? Roots going down in the soil due to the gravity. Okay. Then temperature. Similarly, plant shows response to various other stimuli like chemotropism. Let us understand another kind of response shown by both plants and animals, that is the response towards photoperiod. Photoperiod is the duration of the light and dark period available to plants and animals, and this period actually affects the reproduction in seasonal breeders. You might have noticed that flower bloom in a particular season of the year. Butterflies also, you must have observed them in a large number during spring. Animals, they also breed at a particular time of the year. For example, male cuckoo coo to attract, or it's a call for a female for reproduction, for copulation. So, seasonal breeding is a natural phenomena existing in various organisms, and it is their response towards photoperiod. While I am explaining you that organisms have got ability to sense their environment and respond according to that, you might be thinking that this is definitely a unique feature of living organism. Let us discuss one question. A person generally do not show response when he or she is in coma. Will you consider that person as dead? No. The person is living, but he is not responding. So what conclusion will you draw? That ability to respond is not a defining property of living forms. Though the person is not showing any response, but still something is there inside that person which is making it alive. What is that? That is consciousness. Consciousness gives the ability to sense the environment, and every living form, whether it is a unicellular organism or it's a multicellular organism, every organism has consciousness, and humans have got self-consciousness. So finally we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving and self-regulating interactive systems who are capable of responding to external stimuli. So finally what conclusion we have drawn? That metabolism, consciousness, cellular organizations are defining properties of living organism. Growth and reproduction are two processes which are not all inclusive characteristics of living organism. Let's move to the next topic, biodiversity and biological nomenclature. Just look outside window of your home. You will see many more organisms, many more varieties of the plants are there. Even the dog might be barking on the street near your home. Birds might be flying in the sky. All these organisms are different living form. Suppose you get a chance to visit a dense forest. Then the number of plants or other animal species that you will be able to see will be innumerable. All these kind of microorganisms, plants, fungi, animals, they actually refers to various species, and such kind of variety available in a particular area is called as biodiversity. Therefore, India has got a great wealth of biodiversity in its dense forests, mangroves, marine areas. But you must have also noticed that industrialization and economic development has led to reckless cutting of forest. That has led to habitat loss of various organisms. Biodiversity loss could also be possible due to overexploitation. In older movies, you might have observed that people send their messages through pigeons, and pigeons used to carry such messages to the far located areas. But have you ever seen such pigeon now? There are no passenger pigeons in the world. That is because of the overexploitation. It is our duty to conserve, restore and sustainably use the biodiversity, because biodiversity considers all the resources on which an individual, community, even nation and also the future generation depends. When you are observing such an enormous biodiversity, you will notice that some of these things are known by some name in a particular region, but if you go to some other region, the name will change. So it becomes very difficult to understand when you are describing an organism to which organism you are actually talking about. So there is a need to devise some mechanism, some kind of, or to provide some kind of names that is universally accepted. A name should be given to an organism So, when the description is given about that organism, everybody should understand about what organism we are talking. But before assigning the name, we need to describe that organism. That is called as identification. And assigning a name to the organism is known as nomenclature. A biological name is assigned to any organism. We need to form some rules. There should be some criteria, there should be some principles laid down for assigning these rules. That care has been taken up by ICBN and ICZN. ICBN stands for International Code for Botanical Nomenclature and ICZN stands for International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Let's understand different type of systems of these nomenclature. The first one is binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature was given by Carl Linnaeus, who was a Swedish botanist and a physician, and he is also known as father of modern taxonomy. And he gave the system. Let us understand what did he talk about. He said a scientific name must be consist of two words. Let's take one example, Homo sapien. The first word is actually genus and the second word represents specific epithet. There is another kind of trinomial system of nomenclature also, which says any scientific name should consist of three words. And this system was proposed by Huxley and Strickland. There should be three names in any biological name. For example, Homo sapien sapien. The first word is representing genus, the next represents species, and the last one represents subspecies. Another example that we can take is gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. One thing you might be noting that genus, species as well as subspecies, they are the same name. Such biological name where genus, species and subspecies all are same name, such names are called as totonyms. Totonyms are accepted in case of animals but not in case of plants. Let us discuss universal rules of biological nomenclature. What rule should be followed while assigning any biological name or while writing a biological name? First one, that every biological name must be two-word name. Let's take an example, Mangifera indica, right? The second rule says that the first word of the name is representing genus and the second word represents specific epithet. All these names are taken up from the Latin language. Why? Because Latin is a dead language. You cannot add on more words. So, once the name is assigned, there will not be any change in that name. The fourth rule says that when you are typing any biological name, it should be typed in italics. And when you are writing that name with your hand, it should be underlined the way I have underlined, and that underline should be separately. And the last rule says that genus name must start with capital letter and the species name always start with small letter. Okay? Many a times you will observe there is some other third word along with the biological name. That is actually abbreviated name of the scientist who have described that species. For example, if I write this with a name, that represent that this organism was given name by Linnaeus. That was all. Let's have a quick recap what we learned today. We learned the meaning of the word biology and living. We learned about the defining features of the living organism, importance of biodiversity in our life. We also learnt about biological classification system and various rules of universal nomenclature. We have a small assignment for you that you can take up at your home. Write various defining features of living organism in your notebook. Select any 5 living organisms and find out their common names in at least 5 regional languages of India. Explore your surrounding areas for the presence of living organism. Make a list of 10 such living organisms and also find out their scientific name. That is all for now. In the next session, we will understand the need of classification and its importance. We will discuss the species concept and we'll talk about various taxonomic categories.